again, that's something we're happy to put in writing in the PUD. So I want to at least reassure them from that respect that, that's not something that's otherwise offered on projects that exist or, other projects that may be in the pipeline. The other thing I think that I do want to be very clear about is that this is not a pain management clinic. That is something that is a specific use that, for the carrying of opioids on site and that kind of thing that is called out in your code and is prohibited. So that is not being asked for as a special exception, nothing of the like. This is a general practitioner designation. Of course, I'm sure like all doctors that, you take in clients of all kinds and maybe his website probably wasn't as clear as it could have been, but again, we're not trying to turn away somebody who may have an opioid addiction that still needs, help with their knee, So just want to be clear on that end. And the two-way traffic question was addressed. It's two-way. And again, like we've mentioned that maybe an additional offering above and beyond is that, we're happy to take forward a recommendation trying to address potentially some driver tension in the COZ zone if the commission would entertain us. We're happy to do that. The 4 parking spots, it's tough to work around the minimum standard, but again, we have no objection to it. So if that's a commission or if that's something moving forward where literally you're taking the low density residential area and saying no impacts on impervious.
Do you mind if I ask you a quick question
Sure.
on the parking, just since we touched on it?
Yeah.
The minimum standard for parking, is that within the requirement of the LDR for PUDs, or is it just a general LDR requirement? And this is probably more staff directed, but I wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, this is an LDR requirement, and if you're asking for them to negotiate on reduction in parking, they may need to apply for a variance. That's,
So we'd have
there's
to,
more to that.
Okay,
Because I
so
know
a
you were
development agreement cannot trump,
They would still have to apply for a variance and get approval.
right. That's the nuance of the city of New Smyrna's
okay, because
process.
that's
Correct.
not how it traditionally, or
And-
my understanding, but, okay,
And
thank you.
that is the beginning of my first discussion. I think one of the nuances when you're talking about PUD zoning in New Smyrna versus other places, it functions more like a traditional zoning category in a lot of respects. This is one of them.
Okay.
And other than that, we're here, we're listening. I'm receptive to feedback. We want to do the right thing. I just want to be clear that these folks have an entitlement to do something. And again, if we can design this in a way that is assisting the folks out there, we can't solve the holistic problem, which sounds like is already being addressed pretty rapidly by at least the city's part of this, that, we don't want to be a contributing factor. And, I imagine a condition that delicately answers these stormwater questions for our site is a positive. Leaving the property the way it is and, listening to the neighbors that, in its existing condition, that doesn't seem like it's a functioning, that's not helping anybody. I think trying to figure out something that can go here consistent with what the entitlements are allowed on the property, addressing concerns, that's a better outcome for everybody. And it incorporates all of your standards that you guys have been working diligently on, just moving forward and trying to get a need into the city, because this is something that is just underserved for the population that's aging in this city, in this area and growing. So, happy to answer any questions. We're available. Hopefully, if there's something we can do or at least talk through, we're happy to do it.
Thank you.
Joey, could I just ask you real quick for a little more clarification when you talked about opioid use
Yes.
versus someone who still has a knee that needs rehab? So are you saying, just to help address Megan's concern about when they talk about rehab on their website, as she was seeing, is that physical therapy rehab, or is this a drug rehab facility? No.
I think that if I let the doctor speak to this more directly, but I think it was the physical therapy rehab, and they may have an expert on site that may be able to speak to those things, but it's not in terms of medicine and offering and trying to address that underlying condition in that way. So, but they are a general family practice. And Ellis, is there anything else you want me to add? These are physical therapists. Their physical therapist is right there. Yeah. Yeah.
Any other questions for the applicant at this time?
Yes. Would you be amenable to having your stormwater management plan completed before applying for your site plan approval?
Well,
It should be a part of it.
yeah, it would be in conjunction with it.
Or,
So the site plan, given the size of the building, would come back to you, and that would have the stormwater plan component with it. So you'd have to see that. You'd have to see the stormwater, how we've laid it out, how we've addressed it. The specifics and nitty-gritty and the engineering have to come back here. So,
And that
Just-
would be after City of New Smyrna Beach engineering review as well as St. John's
that's
review.
correct.
Any other questions?
I have some questions for your engineer, if you have to come up. And correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm just trying to summarize where we are and what happens with this entire stormwater design process. You isolate the 3.3 acre property on paper. You determine some rate of rainfall that falls on that. And then you retain a certain part of that rainfall on site, and you then disperse above that rainfall off-site. It does not consider flow from other properties onto this property. Is that correct?
No, it does. If there is water coming from another property onto your site, you either have to do like a bypass swale.
Do you mind speaking a little bit
sorry.
closer to the mic? Thanks.
When you have flow from another site, you cannot cut that flow off. So if that flow is going to, say, the drainage ditch in the rear, we'd have to design a bypass swale or so.
I understand that, but in the situation of the catastrophic hurricanes we've had, there's none of those flows existing, but there's so much water overwhelming the system, it just oversheets everything. Is that correct?
I haven't been out here during a hurricane, but what we're designing.
If the audience can hold it for a moment so the engineer can speak.
What we designed to is St. John standards, which are certain storm events. And then we designed to what the city just adopted in a new ordinance that was based on stricter standards, which you guys are doing a great job adopting new standards, similar to what the county is doing, and we're held to those standards. So that's mean annual, 25-year, and 100-year storm events. So that's what we are designed by. That's the law.
Okay, can you give us a numerical example of what 25-year storm and 100-year, and how much, that's X number of inches of rain, and how much is retained on site, and when the overflows kick into, just so we got a good perspective of what your design is really going to be
Yeah,
done.
so mean annual storm events like 5.34 inches.
If you could speak closer to the
Oh,
mic
sorry.
again. Sorry. You
A
kinda keep backing up.
mean annual storm event's 5.34 inches. A 25-year, I believe, in City of New Smyrna is like 9.5, and then a 100-year storm event is 12.4. So typically, when you go out throughout the city and you have these storm events, you're like, wow, we just had 22 inches of rain. How is this site designed for 22 inches of rain when we're only designing based on 12.4? Well, I brought up in our previous discussion, we have a factor of safety of 2. So these dry retention areas already have a factor of safety of 2 to, make sure that you have unforeseen storm events, or make sure the pond is functioning over its course of time, and maybe someone didn't maintain it as well. Well, you have a factor of safety of 2. So that gets you to that extra rainstorm events. And we're held to a standard that we cannot discharge any more runoff than what was previously designed for our site.
So are you saying then if, just round the numbers, if the 100-year storm is 12 inches of rain, that considering that you're designing to retain 24 inches of rain, would a factor of 2?
It's based on the discharge. It's not, there's like stormwater, which is for water quality, and then you have attenuation. So we're designing based on the 100-year storm event, and then we have a factor of safety of 2 on top of that. I don't know.
So how many inches of rain would the site be required to retain on site?
I have not fully designed the site. That I can't tell you
Okay,
that
good guess.
exact, I can't tell you that exact answer right now, but we are gonna get to that point after the rezoning, we can actually then design the entire site to those standards, which would
Yeah,
go
but you
before
must have
guys.
an idea because you're going to design to something. So what does a factor of 2 mean?
A factor of 2 means when you have, a pond, so a dry retention pond recovers at a rate through percolation through the soil media. So a factor of safety 2 could be a longer pond. A factor of safety 2 can be double the storage, or a factor of safety 2 can cut the permeability rate in half. So essentially, beach sand, if you dump a cup of water on beach sand, it disappears rapidly.
Not after a hurricane.
Well, if the beach sand was above the water table, it does. Yeah. So it's the water table, when everything raises too high, then you have issues.
Okay. One of the issues that has come up multiple times in previous discussions of this nature is that you design to best your ability. Greatest engineer in the world, you do it. And you know what? At some point in time, it doesn't work. Is there anything as the owner could stipulate to? In Deering Park, for example, the owner stipulated to a performance bond of some sort. Very difficult to define, no question. Is the client willing to do something of that nature?
Well, I think a more appropriate mechanism may be to stipulate to, as part of the easement, that the city has an enforcement mechanism to ensure that those ponds are maintained and can utilize its code enforcement process and stop everything if it wanted to. That would be a much more effective way to address the issue where, Deering Park is a tens of years out in development. It's
Totally different
Right.
situation, but just the concept of put your money where your mouth is.
Exactly, and I think that, he has an interest in making sure his system works too, so as maybe stipulated language that we could include is that as part of the easement, since we're addressing the wetland area, is that we stipulate that the city has an enforcement right over those stormwater systems to ensure that they remain in, as-built were approved, and they have to stay in, functioning condition. You have to ensure that occurs, and that occurs into the future.
And I could help with something. St. John's, actually, with their new regulations, are doing just like what you're asking. So you have to provide a cost estimate for the maintenance for the next 20 years. So a lot of the times I try to provide recommendations. If a jurisdiction's already doing it, try to leave it on jurisdiction. St. John's is already redoing that process. So you have to, it's not a bond, but it actually gives them teeth where you record it with the tax appraisers. You actually record its county document, and they have the right to come out there and enforce if you're not maintaining that stormwater system. And that's on the state level.
And in this case, we can bypass that. The city will have that mechanism too, because that is not a requirement in the code, and, outside of Deering Park Center, I'm not aware of it being a requirement somewhere else. So, that's something we're happy to do, and that, gives the city at least a direct accountability. They don't have to go petition St. John's. They don't have to go get them out there, immediately out there the next day and addressing the issue.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions of the applicant? Okay, thank you. What I may do, we're going to switch over to discussion and/or questions by the board. Sometimes something pops up, if you don't mind jumping in if we need. Thank you. So this time I'll open it up to our board members. Any comments, any discussion, questions?
Yes, I have a few. Let me make notes. It's heart-wrenching that, we're asked to effectively choose to not make things happen because maybe things in the past haven't run right, haven't been maintained. Many of the homes in this area built well before these current standards were involved. So you try to find a balance. From my point of view, city has to grow or they die. City has to grow right, but they also have to take care of their people. I think it's great that New Smyrna Beach is doing the stormwater management. study. In reality, a study takes a year or two, and then the financing takes a year or two. It might be 10 years before something's done. In reality, what happens in life? We own properties, we suffer during that period of time. There's nothing that can be done. The project, I think, is a well-thought-out project. Given the 75-foot requirement back from 44, very, very difficult to get a building in there and access roads and parking spaces around that. And I accept the fact that this client has worked extensively with the planning department on multiple iterations of configurations of building and size and saving trees and doing all of that. As far as approval, there's several things that, if there were to be a motion to approve this, there would be several stipulations I think that I would be concerned with, would want to see, that might require additional work by the applicant before they were able to go to the city commission. First stipulation has been talked about already, that the MDU would stipulate to the enhanced New Smyrna Beach stormwater standards. The second stipulation, which came up earlier, and it's a question of, gee, when you call it's done, what have you got done? I'd like to see a stipulation that substantial completion is defined as all site work is 100% completed and approved by the city for the entire site, and the entire building shell is completed and approved by the city. That's making the assumption that if there's tenants, there's going to be TI work that's separate permits. So you can't require all of that to be done. I would like a stipulation that the developer, before he goes to the city, does further investigation for alternate methods, like we discussed one of perhaps having a dry water storage area in the 75-foot easement. I think that's a great idea. And perhaps there's others, ideas that could come to be able to maximize what could be done on this site. And finally, I think there should be a stipulation that's been discussed regarding the maintenance of whatever the developer has doing and keeping all of his structures he's building regarding stormwater and other utilities up to operate the way they are supposed to operate. Just throw that out for consideration of the rest of the board.
Thank you.
Did you have any problem with anything that he said? I mean,
No, actually, we're fine with that, just with the understanding that the COZ, again, we support it. That can move forward with the recommendation. The problem is it has to move forward for commission approval and consideration because that's impacting the COZ. So,
Would you prefer to have us table this now for
No.
you to do these questions and then get the answers
we-
and then go?
I already know the answers are we're supportive of every one of them. So, I have no issue with that. I just wanted to make sure that that was clear, that it has to move forward for the commission to consider that question. So I'm putting on the record that we are fully supportive of it. We're happy to do it. And if it's the commission that we would give the same presentation and say the same thing, that let us design in that area, not impacting, and letting us design around the vegetation and creating more drive retention. Happy to do it. It just takes the commission, we got to get the commission to do that, to have that discussion.
Are
And
you
these
good?
are all recommended stipulations.
Recommended
Just to
stipulation.
make sure
Yeah,
it's clear,
absolutely.
right. So
Recommended.
the city commission can
Yeah,
take it or
absolutely.
leave it. Right,
Absolutely.
okay.
Our job is to recommend it.
Just want to make sure that's clear. I do have a quick question for city staff in regards to the dry retention idea within the front buffer. Is that an issue in regards to the LDR? Because there's a certain buffer requirement that is there up front. Is this no different than the minimum parking standard where you're saying, although this is a PUD, they can't deviate, they have to do it, or we have to get a variance?
So the COZ was created, that buffer was created because the intent of the commission at the time was to have dense vegetation, so that you're driving along 44 and you have a feeling that you're not impacted by buildings.
Sure.
So I think if we're putting a retention pond,
It defeats that
it
purpose.
defeats the purpose of what that COZ was created for.
And I do believe Mr. Hall has mentioned in previous meetings that he really likes that 50-plus foot buffer and wants to see that along 44, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but it was my understanding, maybe I misunderstood what this particular way you do that from an engineering standpoint, and maybe the engineer can help on this. It would not be a retention pond, but where you would normally set an elevation, let's say at 100 for your ground level of your planting, you set your elevation at 99, so that when you had a lot of rain, hey, that's a little extra that goes in there, but it drains out of there. Was that the concept?
Yes, correct. That is correct. That's the intent. So if, again, getting commission direction and the allowance that shallow swale retention that can be workable within that dense vegetation, because there's plenty of vegetation that can grow in those situations. Happy to do it.
So the aesthetics from 44 would
Will
look
remain
no
the same.
different.
Correct.
That's an engineering work. I mean, obviously, they could present that at, our engineering department could determine if that is something they would be amenable to. If that's counting towards retention, they would have to approve that. If
No,
it's
I don't
silt-
think it should be counted towards retention. I think we're looking for things to get above what they're proposing to
Sure.
do and above the NSB enhanced codes.
Yeah.
And what I'm
Err on the
looking,
safe side, kind of.
what I'm looking to do is just make sure if this is something that the city commission in the future chooses to go forward with, is do we need a variance because we're impacting the native natural buffer that is not supposed to be touched?
So, I mean, currently on this property, there's not really a natural buffer. There's some dead trees, there's not a lot there
Okay.
currently. This would be a planted buffer. So
Okay.
if they're going to modify the topography leading into it, I think the goal is to achieve a buffer.
Okay, so we can run with this as if it's a traditional PUD agreement. Okay, just, are we good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. I know I'm probably being nitpicky, but I want to make sure I'm following this correctly because of the parking space issue as an example. Okay. Any other questions of the applicant? Okay, I had two things I just wanted to address from the public participation earlier. One was the right turn lane into the property from 44.
It's both directions. It's two-way, right in, right out.
Oh, no, what I mean is a right turn lane being built on 44 to pull into that driveway. That'll be later done with a traffic study,
Yeah, traffic
site plan.
study, and we'd be at the whims of FDOT.
Right.
You know, if we're required to do it, we're required to do it.
Right, and I just wanted to make sure that was clear for everybody here, that it will be determined at a later date with the traffic impact study, and if, like you said, if it has to be in, it has to be in. The other thing I was going to bring up was the repetitive loss consideration earlier. Correct me if I'm wrong, but repetitive loss, that applies to physical structures, property damage that has occurred over and over and over again, and the property gets bought out through that process. This property is not eligible for repetitive loss buyout because it's never been developed.
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that was clear as well. So, if there's no other discussion or questions, I do need a motion. I may throw these two extra stipulations at you since I know you've written them down. The stipulation of operating hours, I didn't think you had that earlier. And the stipulation of the photometric plan not illuminating neighboring properties. So it'll bring the lumens to 0 at the property line. So does that sound agreeable as far as stipulations from the board?
I would include
Okay.
those in the motion itself, though, so that
Of
they're
course.
properly recorded. Yeah.
Yeah, just want to make sure we were straight before we, thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
I'll
at this time,
attempt to make the motion.
I will ask for a motion.
I will move for a positive recommendation regarding PUD 4-22.
PUD -2-22.
4-22.
4-22.
Oh, different on
Or
mine.
the typo on that, I guess.
No
Okay.
worries. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay. I would move for a positive recommendation to the city commission to approve the requested rezoning amendment to create the New Smyrna Beach Medical Complex and Wellness Center planned unit development under the attached master development agreement and its conceptual master plan, contingent upon the companion application for historic tree removal being approved by the city commission. This shall include 6 stipulations. 1, the project will design for stormwater will comply with enhanced New Smyrna Beach stormwater standards. 2, there'll be definition of substantial completion as 100% site work substantially completed and 100% building shell substantially completed. There'll be a stipulation that the applicant will attempt to find other methods such as dry storage in the 75-foot setback on 44 that would achieve additional potential stormwater storage in excess of that required by the current stormwater standards. There should be a stipulation, number 4, for maintenance of all of the stormwater design and improvements. Stipulation number 5 is that normal business hours of Monday through Friday of approximately 8 to 5 shall be the operating hours for the tenants in this facility. And the 6th stipulation shall be as part of the plan development, site plan development, there shall be a photometric analysis such that there is no overflow lighting off of the property lines.
Okay, in general, it's going to be correct. Do I have a second to that motion?
I second it.
Thank you. Any further discussion by the board? The only thing I want to add is that these stipulations, if agreeable to the city commission, are physically put into the development agreement, not just kind of floating out there, but it needs to be in the development agreement, signed and recorded. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So with that, Stephanie, could you please call the roll vote?
Member Bean?
Yes?
Member Causey?
Yes.
Member Hall?
Yes.
Member Holvershorn?
Yes.
Chair Wheatcraft?
Yes.
On the motion to recommend approval to City Commission for PUD-4-22 Medical Center and Wellness Complex with conditions as stated in the motion, the vote is 5 in favor, 0 opposed. The motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to our next item, which is CPA-1-25 at South Myrtle Avenue. This is to review and give a recommendation to the City Commission on a proposed small-scale comprehensive plan amendment for property located at the southeast corner of South Myrtle Avenue and West 7th Street. City staff, do you have a report?
Yes, sir. Let's see here. Give a couple minutes.
Understood. I thought about suggesting it, but
All right. So the parcel contains approximately 0.59 plus or minus acres, and it's located at the southeast corner of South Myrtle Avenue and West 7th Street. The applicant has requested that the future land use category be changed from industrial mixed use to industrial. And I've attached the current zoning map. So the parcel is zoned I-1, which is light industrial. The current parcel conforms in width, length, and size for the I-1 zoning district. The existing residential neighborhood is located to the north, is zoned to R2, single-family residential. The property located to the west is a public middle school zoned to R2A, single-family and two-family residential. And the property located to the south is a Volusia County retention pond zoned to I-1 light industrial. And the property to the east, the former railroad property, is zoned to I-1 light industrial. So this district is intended for light manufacturing, assembly, processing raw materials, repairing, research, storage, wholesaling, and distribution. Any retail associated with a principal manufacturing use, and closely related light industrial uses in which all operations other than transportation are performed entirely within the enclosed buildings and are not obnoxious because of any dirt, smoke, odor, vibration, radioactivity, or explosive capability. The application is not requesting a change in the zoning. The I-1 light industrial zoning would remain. And the current future land use map shown is a low-density residential category to the north. There's an educational category to the west. There's an industrial mixed-use category to the east and to the south. So the purpose of this industrial mixed-use category was to promote a sustainable development or redevelopment of land near railroads and other major highways that are in close proximity to central downtown neighborhood by providing maximum opportunity for innovative site planning for living, shopping, and working environments. Areas designated as industrial mixed use are intended to accommodate a mixture of light industrial, research office, retail, medium to high density residential uses. Also, areas designated as industrial mixed use are required to develop using the planned unit development format. Also, with that mixed use, future land use, industrial mixed use, you can have up to 40 units per acre. You can have up to 75 transient lodging units per acre. The maximum FAR is 6.5. And all parcels with a future land use category industrial mixed use must be developed using that planned unit development format. So the planning department has provided a proposed future land use map that would show this category with a new category if approved by the City Commission. The industrial future land use category is designed for activities predominantly connected with manufacturing, assembly, processing, packaging, research, or storage of products. Adequate buffering should be provided. Industrial and residential uses and landscaping and parking would be moved to the proposed building further south and away from the existing residential properties. Also under that industrial future land use, the maximum floor to air ratio is only 2.0. So what are the differences between the two future land uses? The industrial future land use category, again, has a maximum density unit of 40 dwelling units per acre, so that'd be 24 units for this property. They can have up to 75 transient lodging units per acre, which would be 44 units for this property. And they can have a maximum floor air ratio, or FAR, is 6.5, which could be up to 167,000 square feet. The industrial future land use category has no dwelling or transient lodging dwelling units, and the maximum floor to air ratio is reduced only to 2.0, which would be a maximum of 54,400 square feet. So the applicants provided a conceptual plan of a single-story building that would be located to the south and the east of the property, which would be the furthest point from the residential zoned neighborhood. And as you can see in this enlarged section of that conceptual plan, access to the site could be from South Myrtle or from West 7th Street. Parking would be provided along the West 7th Street. Landscape buffers would also be located along all property sides. And stormwater retention would have to be designed and approved by the City Engineering Department. So under the Land Development Regulation, Section 305.01, Paragraph C, Subparagraph 1, the Planning Department is tasked to verify if the request would be consistent with the city's comprehensive plan and the land development regulations. So under the Land Development Regulation, Section 504.02, that's the I-1 Light Industrial Zoning District, that would be compatible with the industrial future land use category. The I-1 Light Industrial Zoning District has permitted uses that would be consistent with the intent of the industrial future land use category. The Planning Department researched the city's comprehensive plan and found it was consistent under Element 2, future land use, and Element 15, economic development element. The following goals would also support the request as follows, which was future land use element goal number 2, objective 1, future land use element goal number 2, objective 2, the future land use element goal number 4, objective 1, and of course also the economic development element, which has one single goal, it meets that goal. So in summary, the applicant has requested a change in the future land use category from industrial mixed use to industrial, And after evaluating the merits of the application, the Planning Department has recommended that the Planning and Zoning Board give a positive recommendation to the City Commission to approve the requested decrease in overall density and reduction of the floor-to-air ratio by changing the future land use from industrial mixed use to industrial. And that's a condensed summary of the overall 15-page illustrated staff report. Subject to any questions the board may have. Also, the applicant is present here to answer any questions as well.
Thank you. Any questions to city staff?
Well, if the applicant's here,
Okay.
I'll
If
ask.
there's no other questions for city staff, I'll go ahead and call up the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you have this on your presentation, location map?
Yes. Would you like that?
I would.
I think that was the second slide.
There we go, thanks. All right. For the record, my name is Glenn Storch, and I represent the applicant in this case. This is one of those things that we're trying to fix. If you recall, well, maybe y'all wouldn't recall this, but I do. About 15 or 20 years ago, FEC was basically looking at doing something with their property, moving out. And the city is trying to encourage them to do something special on this property, do it as a mixed-use project. And so the city created at that time something called industrial mixed-use designation. And as you heard Bob indicate, that would provide for something that's next to a railroad track, large area, and it was basically everything it was on one side of 44, the 44 bridge, and it went all the way to 10th Street, and that was all the FEC property. Still is. They've sold it to they've sold the property to somebody else, but it's still the same parcel, basically. This parcel, as you can see, does not meet those criteria. It's not part of that large parcel where you could actually plan a PUD and plan mixed use and plan large, higher densities or 6.5 FAR. It wasn't the intent. How this parcel got into that one section of that one ownership, I have no idea. I suspect that this parcel was zoned industrial at that time, and therefore it was just, and everything else was zoned industrial, so it was just included in the mixed industrial mixed use. But it doesn't make any sense to have this parcel, who's owned by a separate party, to be part of that industrial mixed use, because they have no intention, obviously, of doing the incredible densities that Bob was just talking about. There's no advantage to them to try and do this. It doesn't make any sense next to this residential neighborhood near the school. It doesn't make any sense at all. What does make sense is what they were talking about, which is, a single-story building that provides for industrial uses, but not all industrial uses. If you recall, and this board agreed to this as well, we had a similar remnant parcel like this on the other side of 44. And when we looked at that, we looked at the fact that it didn't make any sense to have it as industrial mixed use, and it was already zoned industrial, so we changed the comp plan to match the zoning. But at the same time, what we did is we also took away some of the uses that were allowed in industrial that didn't make much sense, such as, let's see if I've got it here, such as adult theaters, things that would cause a lot of smoke or things like that. But there were, I think, 5 or 6 uses, and also a provision that no particulate matter could be allowed. So there were, we gave up 5 or 6 uses as a restrictive covenant. And that restrictive covenant basically was placed on the property, and it ran with the property. It's not the zoning. It's always there. So you could never do those things on that property. And so my clients would agree to do the same thing with this one. They're not as close to the residences as they were in the other one, but it makes sense. I mean, we have no intention of using an industrial property for this, but it does make sense for this to be a sort of a modified industrial that would allow for some use and is not part of industrial mixed use. So that's why you have a comp plan amendment request for this one small piece of property, to allow us to then proceed with the plan that was shown to you. So if it certainly made sense to me, it obviously made sense to staff. If you have any questions, we're here to answer those questions, and of course my client's here to answer any of the questions as well. But I will stipulate to taking the same restrictions that we had on the other property and put them on this property as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions of the applicant?
Is there a time frame for developing this?
They're basically ready to go right now, is that right? That's what I thought. This is the only thing holding it up.
What's the square footage of the building in total?
Guys?
9,045 units.
If you'd like to come forward and, yep,
Name and address.
thank you.
Kevin O'Donnell, 1218 Commodore Drive.
Right, so it's about 9,000 square foot of building, 4 or 5 types of individual uses.
That's right, varying from 1,000 square feet to 2,000 square feet. And to give a little more context, what Glenn was talking about, I mean, the restrictive covenants were things like, I got it right here, adult entertainment establishment, right? Animal hospital with kennels, automobile repair, boat building repair and sale, machine shops, paint and body shops, recycling centers, and service stations. Obviously, we're good stewards of the land. We know the location we're in. We have no problem putting those kind of stipulations in.
So what sort of businesses do you envision being in there?
Well, I think on the light industrial stuff, you're going to have everything from, it could be storage. I mean, it could be people that want to, have an AC company and they just need to have a spot to keep some of their stuff. When I look at light industrial, that's kind of, I mean, t-shirt manufacturers that are shipping stuff out. They need storage facilities, and that's kind of the intent.
Because it looks
Small
like,
businesses, all small businesses.
it looks like there's only 8 parking spaces.
Yeah, we don't anticipate a whole bunch of daily traffic there. Yeah.
But the parking will be based, since it's straight zoning, the parking will be based on what the requirements are with the land development code. Correct.
I have a question for Mr. Storch. Sure. Just out of curiosity, I understand it's a flu request. Is there a reason that we did the route of a flu request instead of a variance and PUD?
If you recall, we had the same issues last time. It was the exact same situation. But in this particular case, there are different standards for variances, as you know. You have to basically show that you can't use the property for anything else, basically, and if it's your fault that you're doing this, then it's you're not entitled to a variance. Okay. So I think it would be very difficult to say you're entitled to a variance in this particular case. It's a rectangular piece of property. The logical thing to do is to make the industrial zoning the same as the industrial comp plan. Okay. So that's why we're doing it this way.
Just hoping to make it a little bit clearer.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I understand, because I looked at all those options before, if you recall.
Any other questions of the applicant? Okay, seeing none, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, at this time, we'll go ahead and open up public participation. A 3-minute limitation will be imposed unless otherwise granted by the board. If anybody would like to come forward, right now is your time. See, we have a couple. If you don't mind, just one person at a time speaking at the podium. Okay, your name and address for the record.
Tamara Collins, 898 South Myrtle. Just concerned, the middle school's there, the traffic already there, and why the need to change it from light industry to industry. We just don't want to set a precedent to have more industry in that area.
Thank you. And then I'll let you come forward as well.
Exactly what she said, because
do you mind stating your name and
sorry,
address
Renee
for the record?
Stimson, 901 South Myrtle. We're always staring down the development of that big property behind us, the railroad property. So we're terrified about changing anything at this point because we're afraid of what's going to come in the future. And we too have flooding issues and things like that there. But mostly, traffic on Myrtle is horrific. You can't get in and out. They just put a beautiful new walkway in, and people park on it on a daily basis. So, the people who are trying to use it are already inhibited because there's, in the morning and in the afternoon, there's people parking on it. Drive down it. So any changes at this point goes back to everything that we just listened to from the last development. I'm about growth, but it would be nice to see the flooding situation get fixed before more things get built. That's all.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else that would like to come forward at this time? Seeing none, I'm sorry. Well, I will. I got to close public participation first, though, just procedurally. So at this time, public participation is closed. City staff, do you have anything further?
The only thing I want to add is, just in case there's confusion, the light industrial zoning is going to stay. It'll still be light industrial. The only change is the future land use from industrial mixed use, which allows a lot more, down to just industrial, which would be a downgrade to their future land use. And so I just wanted to put that on the record if anybody was confused about what's being requested tonight. The zoning will stay the same, light industrial. Mr. Stewart said they're going to put some restrictions on it, so we'll have that for the next level when it gets to the city commission. We'll have that as part of the presentation, and we agree that we would love to have that in there just like we did for the last property that we had this situation with, and that's it.
Thank you. I know I stole.
Yeah, that's okay. I was going to say the same thing. I understand these ladies' concerns, but the bottom line is that we're actually reducing the number of trips and reducing the number of potential.
If you don't mind speaking into the mic,
I'm sorry.
I know.
You're right, I know. I wanted to see their face. We're actually reducing the number of trips. We're actually reducing the potential densities. In fact, we're eliminating a lot of the density, all the density. We're reducing the amount of square feet that you could put on the site. So, and just a matter of, it's one of these quirks that you have to do to be consistent. So this way we're consistent with the zoning. We're not trying to use the industrial mixed use zoning. We're not trying to change the zoning. And what you saw up there, the very simple light industrial uses, the actual traffic generation of those are very minimal, to be honest with you. They're far less than commercial. If for storage, it's far less than practically anything you can have. So that's the advantage you have on a situation like this. But and I understand there's a desire to say, well, let's just stop everything for now and not allow anything. That's not the way it works. It's all a balancing act. If you own property and you're paying taxes on that property, you're entitled to use that property based on the law. And the law in this case would allow for a lot more, and what we're asking for is to reduce that amount. So I think that's it.
Thank you. Any other questions of the applicant? Okay, seeing none. Discussion and/or questions by the board? Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. Do I have a motion to recommend to the City Commission to approve the requested change in the future land use? I do need a motion.
I'll make a motion to the CPA-1-25, review and give recommendation to the City Commission on a proposed small-scale comprehensive plan amendment, changing the future land use from industrial mixed use to industrial on approximately 0.59 plus acres of land located in the southeast corner of South Myrtle Avenue and West 7th Street.
Thank you. Thank you. Stephanie, could you please call the roll vote?
Member Causey?
Yes.
Member Holvershorn?
Yes.
Member Hall?
Yes.
Member Bean?
Yes.
Chair Wheatcraft?
Yes.
On the motion to recommend approval, the City Commission for CPA-1-25 South Myrtle Avenue Future Land Map Amendment. As submitted, the vote is 5 in favor, 0 opposed. The motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, we'll move on to comments or statements by members of the board. Anything that needs to be brought up? Okay, seeing none. Reports and communication by the staff.
Well, I wanted to inform you guys that coming up in September, there is an American Planning Association conference happening in Daytona. During that conference, which is, I believe, 4 days long, there is a commission or a planning body training. If you're interested in attending, you're welcome to. You can attend the conference, or you can attend just the training, which they don't have the schedule finalized yet. I just wanted to kind of get it on your radar. That's starting September 16th through the 19th. It'll be, I think, at the Ocean Center. So just maybe mark your calendars, and when I have more information, I'll bring it to you. Obviously, if there's a fee involved, this board could cover the fee for your training attendance. So, yeah, that's all I have for you. Thanks.
Well, thank you. If there's nothing further, we are adjourned.